My question to you, the first one, is very simple. What's wrong? Are indies being discriminated against in the digital world, or is everything hunky-dory?
No, I think what we see is we see a digital environment which is probably a little bit behind of what we hoped, because when the digital market started, we were hoping that each consumer can find his own consumption model and therefore find the way he wants to evaluate music. At the moment, we are still pretty much dominated by the download market or the most prominent service. But I think what is more the problem is actually the exclusion of the independence of the market. The exclusion is a problem because the independent labels are the labels who are investing into new talents and bringing new artists into the market. So we are the risk takers. Just to throw a number, 80% of all new releases are coming from independent labels. So without our investment, the entire music market is dying out. On the other hand, we see services coming into the marketplace like YouTube, paying each major an advance of $20 million and no advance to the indies. By the time we come to the table to negotiate a deal, there's nothing left. And the other problem we face is that there's a general feeling that independent music has less value than major music, which is again a problem for us economically and also a problem to invest into new artists. And there is the third problem, and these are the exclusion of settlements.
Bob, do you agree?
Everything Horst said is very, very true. It's been a pretty interesting experience to see how the independent community has just not been included in a lot of the major negotiations. And we've really made a lot of inroads over the last year in being included. And I think one of the benefits to the independent community that Merlin has provided is that we're now thought of as a body that can really provide value to these services. One of the things I like to say, or the way I like to put it is, we've really removed our own barriers to entry because there's so many of us. The independent community is sometimes lumped into one basket, but we're a very diverse group. You have very large independents, you have very tiny independents, and we're really just companies that are not part of the four majors. I mean, some of us have very significant market share, but the thing we all have in common is that exclusion.
I don't completely agree with a lot of what you're saying. Parts of it I absolutely agree where there's some disparity between the independents and the majors and some of the deal making. But I can tell you from our experience, we're in the negotiations with every major service right from the get-go. We're part of those. There's plenty of services that we've licensed before all four of the majors have been in, where we're one of the first or second in. And sometimes we're negotiating with pretty major services that start with independents, that say, you know, it's a very difficult discussion to even talk to the majors. We love independent music, we'll even start there. So, you know, there are elements, absolutely, where there's this disconnect, but I wouldn't say that we're somehow excluded from negotiations.
Charles, Merlin was created to actually negotiate those deals, and also probably to talk about the settlements that Horst was mentioning. Also knock on the door and say, well, how about us? Have you made any progress?
I mean, we've made significant progress both in real tangible commercial terms but also in positioning terms. Merlin Career was created because there was an increasing number of services that were either limiting access or discriminating, but also because anti-piracy is being privatised. You know, I think we have to have a context in this, and Merlin's not there to do every digital deal for every one of its members all of the time. The market works fine a lot of the time. A lot of other times it doesn't work fine at all. And you know, really that's why if you look at our membership, it includes not only small labels who you would say, well, you're small and that's why you don't get onto the service. It includes large multinational companies that are incredibly successful. But clearly there's an issue. Otherwise we wouldn't have the support for what we're doing and we wouldn't have a membership. Mm-hmm. The fact is, in a very short period of time, between really when we launched membership in April and now, we have the most significant basket of rights under our membership that exists outside of the four majors.
Amazon is launching has launched an MP3 store. It's available in the UK at the moment, and the rest of Europe should follow soon. Do you feel that you are, Scott, you have two different ways of dealing with people? There's one for the majors and one for the indies?
There's definitely not an indie and a major.
But can you empathize with the kind of frustration, for lack of other word, that the indies are feeling, that sometimes they don't get as fair deals as majors?
I understand that feeling. I mean, I come from the independent community. I was at eMusic prior to this. I, managed artists. So I also think independents have great opportunities to be creative and do new things. I mean, our top-selling album of last year in the U.S. couldn't have been more independent. It was a self-released Nine Inch Nails album. That was a #1. That's for us. That's very independent. So there's a lot of opportunity, and it's a matter of everything should be fair. You want to take advantage of that opportunity.
Well, Madeleine, eMusic is about indie labels.
Yeah, so I can't really comment on whether the industry is fair or not, because from the get-go we've been independent only, and from the get-go, as Scott says, we were MP3 as well. eMusic couldn't exist if it wasn't for the indies, and the fact that they took a risk with us and decided to take the risk and to take a chance and sign up with eMusic, and we are now we're number 2 in the world after iTunes in terms of the amount of music we sell, and we are an only independent label store. Kevin,
your company has been operating for quite a while. Have you changed sense a shift in the digital market since in the past couple of years? Do you think there's more opportunities now? Do you think there's more platforms offering legitimate services that are compelling to consumers and therefore makes your job and your business a healthier one?
I definitely think the marketplace is full of more opportunities for the independents. Whether or not they're legitimate and to what degree, I think is a very big question, right? And the most legitimate services, of course, are going to be the ones that are generating revenue for our client base, right? That the independent records are going to be making money from. You have here, I think, a good example and something I think it's important to look at. It's like, well, we have quite uncontroversial services here on the panel. We are talking about two of really the largest and fastest growing, perhaps, services in the business, and both of them, it's important to note, I think, have taken very independent friendly strategies with regard to how they launch and how they approach the business. Hopefully the industry should see that those types of strategies have benefits, right? Inclusion of independence early, and that type of embrace is something that's important for somebody to succeed out there in the marketplace.